So everybody, this is my friend Sen the Poet here. We literally just recorded this 2 seconds ago and realized that the audio was recording and the video wasn't recording. So we're like, had a dress rehearsal. So anyways, I'm going to just say what I did over again. So this is Sen the Poet. She is the first female on my channel. She's the first woman here. And I whipped out the purple wine glasses for her. Cheers.
Cheers.
Because they've been in my cabinet forever and I've never used them. And I'm like, hey, this is my first woman here, so I might as well use them.
Yes. Woo. I feel honored.
Yeah. So I'm going to go over the same questions that we just asked. We had our own private dress rehearsal. So
it's secret. You don't know about it.
So my first question to her was, and now I already know the answers, but you guys need to know the answers. What is your random useless talent? So that could be anything from like, oh, I could whistle louder than anybody else with that 2-finger thing, or I can make my armpit fart or something like that.
So I was telling you before, I can make the clover with my tongue. I'm the only one in my family of 4 that can. And I can also I pick up voices really easy, so I can imitate people kind of easy.
Which is a really great talent. I wouldn't even consider the voices one a useless talent. I think that's a good talent. You're probably a good singer and you don't know it. Like, are you a good singer?
Well, when I was younger, I was, and then I got the rasp, and now I'm not so much.
No, but raspy voices are sexy.
Not when I sing.
I feel like people who can imitate voices, like they have the ability to sing. But we don't have to put that. We don't have to. I could play for you on piano and you can sing.
Time,
yeah, maybe next time. I have my useless talent. I can't do the clover thing with my tongue. We were talking about how that's genetic, and like my parents and sister cannot do it. I feel like if anything, now this is so weird, but. And no one I know can do it, but I can like make my hands look like little snakes or something. Ooh. Yeah. Like I don't know that many people that could do that. That's literally my only useless talent. If anybody there has a useless talent like this, like with your tongue or your hand snake or anything like that, let us know in the comment section. Or like if you're one of those weirdos who could like pop your elbow out or something.
Oh man, yeah. I'm always like, how do you do that?
That stuff freaks me out. Or like the eyeball thing, like the
where they can like flip the eyelid.
Yeah. So my next question for her, and we had some amazing stories, so I'm so mad that we didn't catch this. Let me just double check this is recording. Okay. It is recording. Audio is recording, video is recording. Okay, we're good.
Technology.
So have you ever used a dating app, and do you like it or do you not like it, and why?
Like I was saying before, girl. But yes, I have used dating apps. I still do use dating apps. I use multiple dating apps to hopefully... My idea in my head is because I'm a marketing person by profession, and so like I'm like, if I'd use different platforms, maybe I'll get different samples. But they all turned out to be the same so far. So
is there like a lot of generic pictures that you see on there? Like, is there like oh, there's always a guy with a dog, or like there's always a guy on a mountain, or like is there something that you see on there?
There's always the guy who's like has lifts his shirt up and shows his abs. I'm pointing at abs. These are abs, okay? But there's always the ab picture. There's always the dog picture, and there's always the snuggling with either grandma or mom picture, or like some random child who's like, oh, why am I in this picture?
It's funny because I feel like women could like see right through that type of stuff. It's like, okay, I personally, do you like abs on a guy? Like, are you into that type of thing?
I don't like them when they're too like muscular.
I was just like saying this to my friend today because like I go to the gym. I like working out, but I don't necessarily want like a ripped guy. Like I don't know if that's just me, but there's just something about it that if I feel... I'm sorry if anybody out there is like really into the gym or whatever, because like I work out too, but I'm not like shredded. I just like to stay healthy.
Surprisingly, I also work out, but yeah, I also like cheese. So.
Oh yeah, I love cheese too. I'm a big cheesehead. Actually, I'll leave this question for later, but it has to do with food, so we're gonna get to that one.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I'm not really into like shredded dudes. Like I kind of like just like a regular fit dude, like without. Like when I see that type of stuff on like those dating apps, like you said, it's just like that looks like either you're just trying to get in bed with me or you're desperate.
Yeah, and then it usually lands up being one of the two. So it's a good guess.
So one of the other questions that we spoke about before was that do you have any funny stories from a dating app that you use that you could tell us? Like because we were saying how she was telling me before how if you want to be a comedian, you can make a whole career off of just dating apps.
Yeah.
Like there's so much material to work with. Can you tell me like a funny story that you had either in the past or recently on a dating app that you can share with us?
Yeah, I have so many stories that I'm thinking about actually writing a book.
A book about it?
Yeah, I think I might actually do that. And I've had like people tell me that I should. Like my last date was with a 38-year-old guy I was telling you before, and he was like all excited and he made it seem like he was super into it, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna decorate it was a virtual date, of course, because social distancing, and he's like, I'm gonna go get like my room and decorate it and all this stuff, and he got me all excited. So I also was like, okay, I'm gonna go on my deck and put on like candles and get and decorate and everything, and I did. He showed up in a t-shirt and gym shorts and dirty laundry all over his. So missed the memo there.
Yeah. We were saying before how like if there's a virtual date, it might be a good thing because then you can kind of like filter out and you wouldn't have to like do that whole process in person. Like, cause some people could put on a good front like at the restaurant, and then like now you saved yourself the trouble of like going to his house and seeing his dirty ass room. Like,
yeah, I wish he would have just been like, I'm just gonna come and be like chill about it.
Yeah.
And you also come in your pajamas and it's all good. Everything's fine. But like,
yeah,
I was like, okay.
Yeah, I feel like a messy house is definitely a turn off for a woman. It is for me. I'm like it probably doesn't look like my house is clean right now, but I'm actually moving in a few weeks. So that's why like things are all over the place. But I like to keep things clean.
I would say the same thing, but I'm also very highly disorganized. And I keep telling people it's because I'm busy, but like honestly, it's just, I like naps. So
are you working through the quarantine? Are you working from home?
Yep, I'm working. I'm definitely working. And then I come home, and recently, thanks to quarantine, actually, which I'm really happy about, like my poetry stuff has really picked up. So it's like double work.
That's good that you like found the motivation to do more poetry in quarantine, because I've seen it go both ways. I feel like there was the type of quarantine person who's like, I'm going to get so motivated because now I have now I have all this free time on my hands and stuff like that. And then there's the other type of quarantine person that's just like, oh, I'm depressed. Like, I'm not going to do anything. Yeah. So it's good that you like revved up your workload instead of like kind of just laid around, you know?
Yeah, because I have a tendency, if I get bored, I start getting into that, what am I doing with my life type of thing. And then it gets depressing. So I just try to keep myself occupied.
Like keep yourself distracted. Yeah. Like one of my friends, like when it would get quiet, he'd be like, I don't want the thoughts. I don't want the thoughts. Yeah. Which is like
literally me. That's what, no, delete.
My dad says that too. He's like, you got to work or else you just start thinking. Like,
I don't know if it's the healthiest way, but it's the way. That's good. Cheers. That one.
Yeah, right. Cheers.
Oh, cheers.
So my next question, and now this is an authentic conversation now because we never got to this question before we messed up the recording.
Okay.
So what is a character flaw? And I asked a few questions. I asked this to my last few guests too. What is a character flaw that you have that you're aware of that you want to work on?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good question, but there's a list. But I said that so casually. But
my last guest said the same thing. He was like, "Oh shit, there's a lot I have to work on."
There's a lot, and it, like especially now, you like reflect on like, oh, okay, wait, why do I do this thing? Yeah. But one of the biggest thing I've learned, and I'm like, maybe this is why I write so much poetry, is because I make things a lot more complicated in my head than they need to be. Like I call myself a serial overthinker. Like I think I actually need like intervention to stop thinking. I need someone to be like, no, you're thinking again. Stop it. Yeah. Dude, just stop it. But yeah, that is something I'm now very much aware of and trying to work on being like, okay, this is the situation. Accept it as it is, and it's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
I think a lot of creative thinkers think a lot. Mm-hmm. I think that's part of being like a poet or a writer, a musician. I mean, how else would you spill out and puke out all this stuff on your page if you didn't have stuff in your head?
It's a thick one.
It's a thick one. So yeah, but I'm glad that all my guests are saying that they have flaws, because I would be kind of like, oh, okay, I wouldn't know how to respond if like they were like, I'm perfect, like I have nothing wrong with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, like who would say that? Like that person has flaws that they're not in touch with reality.
Yeah, they're not aware of.
Yeah.
You know? So the next question is, and this goes back to the food thing and the cheese. So if you were on a diet, what would be the one food that would break your diet like you couldn't control? Cheese. Yeah. I think for me, it's probably cheese or ice cream. I don't know if you're an ice cream fan.
I'm an ice cream fan too.
Yeah, I love ice
those
cream
are both
and cheese.
Good.
Yeah.
And like, I shouldn't eat dairy for my stomach, but but I do it anyway.
You know, I think dairy gets like a worse rep though, like than it should. Because I think if you get like a good quality dairy, like if you're going to get, like I'm really big into like health and fitness and stuff like that. And I eat cheese. I eat a lot of cheese. But what I do is like I just try to get really good quality cheese. Like I'm not going to get those Kraft Singles cheese or like processed heavily. Is that your cheese? Oh no, maybe that's your guilty cheese. But yeah, I try to.
That's cheese.
I try to stay away from that, and I try to get like farm fresh things. Like I don't know, my philosophy is like as long as it's fresh, it's fine. Like I even feel that way about ice cream. Like if I'm gonna get ice cream, I'm not gonna eat it every day.
Right.
But if I do get it, I'm gonna go to like a homemade ice cream parlor or like try to get a brand at the store that looks like more on the homemade side and not like that Edie's crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I actually agree with you on that one. I mean, and by agree, I mean like I actually do that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been trying to get more healthy, so I am trying to get more into like. So this is good. I'm noting it for myself.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like I'm just like really big into that because I've tried really strict diets. Like I've tried keto. I felt really sick on keto. I've tried veganism. I felt really sick on veganism. So then I finally like settled with like I just want to eat healthy and by healthy like eat good quality foods. Like you know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be like such a strict thing. So I think, you could probably have cheese. Just maybe watch like the processed stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm also going through a wellness thing myself, even though I have a long ways to go, clearly. But
no.
but
one of the things you need to work on is over criticizing yourself. I think that's one of the things you work on. You need to work on because you look beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But yeah, with my eating habits, it's just been like anything that makes my stomach unhappy, I'm like trying to stay away from, and that's been the thing too.
That's smart. Just like listen to your body.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like if like, again, like somebody might be like, eggs are good for you. Eggs are bad for you. I think the best way is to be like a scientist for yourself and to see what makes you feel. Like if everyone tells you eggs are bad, but they make you feel great, eat eggs. Or if I tell you cheese is good and it makes you feel like shit, like I'm wrong too. You know what I mean? So
it's like, everyone's body is built differently for a reason. So,
Yeah, I think it has to do with your like people's ancestry. That's my opinion. I could just be bluffing and bullshitting. I don't know. But my opinion is like, I feel like whatever my ancestors ate like in the past like couple hundred years must be what my body can tolerate. But I don't know if that's true, but it's just like one of my philosophies, which is why I think I can tolerate cheese because cheese is big in Italian culture. So
okay. Yeah, that would make sense. Cool. Yeah, in my house, like in Indian food, it's like spice. I can handle all the spice, but dairy not so much, because I also realized that most like Indian food, besides like the ones that are like fancier and like meant for fancy occasions, are very cream heavy. But regular Indian food is like very like spice oriented and vegetable oriented. So like the real basic foods I can handle very, very well. But like once you add in a cheese or something, it's like
like the cream and stuff. What would be like a typical dish that your mom cooks?
Oh, a typical dish. Well, I'm actually vegetarian. I'm the only vegetarian in my house.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Since 2008. So
wow, awesome.
I don't even miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so I actually try to cook my own food, but she cooks in our house. Since we're Bengali specifically, fish is a big component of Bengali dishes. So
are you allowed to have fish, or vegetarians can't have fish either?
I mean, I don't eat fish, but some people do.
Pescatarians, yeah.
And my grandmother was vegetarian, and she used to have fish too, but I don't.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. So.
Yeah, some people don't like the fishy smell and stuff. I like fish, but definitely like sometimes if a salmon isn't cooked right, it can have like a weird taste. I like salmon, but it's got to be cooked right. And like I like shrimp. I feel like shrimp is more mild, but
I used to love shrimp, but now it gives me those. Did you ever watch Hitch where he got all the like hives on his face? And
I've never seen that before.
Oh man. There's this scene where he has hives all over his face and he's like downing Benadryl to try and get rid of it.
Out? Like,
no, that's what happens to me.
Oh no, you're allergic to shellfish?
Yeah, and that was so sad because I loved shrimp and then I had to give it up. So
no, that's a shame because I feel like that's like a good option for people who like don't want to eat meat. Like I feel like seafood is like a good option, but damn, that sucks. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I know. That was the heartbreaking moment. And I'm like, I'm doing it for the animals. Yes. So I keep that myself.
My last wait.
Sure.
So we did the food.
Yeah.
Okay. So my last question. I like this question. Who is your female celebrity crush? I didn't want to say male. I wanted to see who is your female celebrity crush.
I have several.
Several.
My biggest one is definitely, I don't know if this is necessarily a crush as much as I admire the hell out of, Oprah, obviously, which is generic. Everyone probably says Oprah, but I really love her positivity. She's continuously positive, and that's something I strive to do. And I also think that everything she does is actually genuinely well intended, and I really, really love that about her. Well, yeah.
Who's your female crush? Like purely based on lust, like you just think she's hot.
Oh, Priyanka Chopra Jonas now. I was like, I feel like if there's like an attainable look for me, she's the one. So we're gonna go for that one.
That's funny. I do feel like women like crush their woman crush is always someone that like kind of resembles them. Like so they could like I know exactly what you mean. Like my one friend, she's like I'm a curvy girl and I need to look up to other curvy girls. Like and I'm just like that's true. Like we like to like find someone that it's like I can be that. You know what I mean? Probably mine would be I can't remember her name. Jennifer Connelly. She's so beautiful.
I love her, yeah.
I like her like eyebrows. Like I think they're thick. And I've always liked her eyebrows. And now like thick eyebrows are back in style. I'm like, see, yes. Like people used to like make fun of me like for thinking she was cute. Like this was like back when we all tweezed our eyebrows off. And I'm like, I love like her thick eyebrows. I think she's so beautiful. And now like everybody's like, oh, I used to tweeze my eyebrows off. How do I grow them back? Like,
and I'm like, see, mom, thanks, mom, for not letting me do that. She was like, no, don't touch the brows. I was
going to say in Indian culture, they do like the threading and they're very strict about that because I've gotten my eyebrows threaded from some Indian ladies. And when they saw my eyebrows, they're like, what did you do to yourself? And I'm like, I plucked them. They're like, you should never pluck your eyebrows. Like they were mad at me. Like they really take care of their eyebrows. They're beautiful, you know?
Yeah. I actually, the threading lady I only went to a threading salon once and they told me that you don't really need it. So then I just stopped going. But then I see like stray hairs now. I have stray hairs.
So you don't do anything to your eyebrows? They look perfect.
All I do is put a little
you have like you basically have, like I said, you have the eyebrows that like everybody's trying to get. Like you're just you just like naturally arch and everything like
I am naturally fashioned.
So those are all my random unrelated questions to poetry. So now if you would like, you can recite one of your own poems.
Sure. I have two that I have prepared, but I wonder if it's in here. No, it's in the other book. I'll do this one. This is like my favorite poem that I've written in quarantine and actually wrote in the beginning of quarantine. And I just feel with elections and everything coming up, it's actually still relevant today. It's called Woke Speech. Bowing my head in a degree of mystery, reviewing humankind in its history. I'm upset. Thinking of all the injustices, I shake my head. Woke people, now broke people, the world is dead. Turn on the news to watch these discussions. I'm disgusted. Hatred, violence, war, it's confusing. One love, one world, one life. Did we forget? Quit abusing. Life goes on until it won't. Why live yours doing nothing to gloat? Pride isn't a right, you earn it. Go out and do something to get it with. People do nothing and get incarcerated, just thrown in prison because they're hated. When did the justice system become a disposal system? When did we lose hope in people and start blaming the victim? I'm unwell. Thinking about this hell, it can't be real. Too unequal a deal. When did we start living in a world where a child goes to school and packs a bulletproof vest? When did we come to a point of such civil unrest? How did we come to a point where we ignore the depressed to the point they shoot a gun to their heart just to get something off their chest? It's unreal. I don't know how to feel. Are we too blessed to be stressed or too stressed to be blessed? It's an issue. To fix it, rest assured we'll need more than a tissue. Prayers and thoughts don't bring back lives lost, only actions can cause a stir great enough for proactive reaction. Behaviors only paid attention to when extreme, then blowed off as a troubled individual. I could scream, pay attention, the people are speaking. Line up, file up, the problems are peaking. When people given the power of leaders do it with no spine, how can the world not operate in crime? Time for the people to take back the power, make these so-called leaders cower, silence them as they peer from their tower, and show them how to truly operate using brain power. That's the mission. Time to take a position. No more time to assess the condition. No more space for indecision, only space for precision. Let's stop this bullshit addiction and spread love and equality like a religion. Cut this toxicity off like a circumcision. A new day has risen. I hope I don't sound too gruff, sounding off on these situations so tough. Inactivities on these issues make it rough. And quite frankly, I have had enough.
Woo!
Thank you. Sorry. I'm learning to talk though. That was hard.
You're like, I'm a poet, but I'm just learning. So do you, how often do you perform live poetry readings like this?
So I do. I've been doing I actually started doing performances right before everything shut down.
Oh, damn. That really sucks.
So yeah. I've been doing a lot of virtual. So I've been like getting the practice in there. And I actually did a slam for the first time ever during virtual, and it was an international stage. 100 people watched me. I mean, granted, I definitely lost, but that was one of the ones I did. So I'm getting my practice in there, and it's been interesting.
So with this style, this is awesome. By the way, it's very relevant to everything that's going on and everything. It's very beautiful. Would this style of poetry be considered like spoken word? Is that what that is? Spoken word?
Yes.
I was going to ask you about that. That was like one of the questions I had because I'm not poetic in my nature. Like I would like to be. So I was telling Honest, I just interviewed him before you, and I actually met you through Honest through a virtual open mic. So we met through a virtual open mic by our friend Honest, and he invites all types of creatives like poets and musicians and stuff like that. So that's how I met her. And anyways, going back to it, I was saying that years ago, I did a poem, and it was the only time I ever did a poem. And I was telling Honest, like, man, I'm really envy like poetic people, because he's not a poet, but he's a rapper, and I feel like there's a similarity in the fact that he has to come up with words a lot. You know what I mean? And when I wrote a poem, it was like, I remember I was like 22. I had like a crush on this guy that I worked with or whatever. And I never, saw myself as a poet, but the words just like spilled out on a paper. And I was like, let me enter this to a competition. And they wrote back saying like, sorry, we can't accept this because it's not like a poem. And they're like, it's like a letter, like a love letter. And I'm just like wondering, is that how things still are? Are they very structured? Or now with times changing, is more love letter? Because it wasn't just like, hi, I like you. I used poetic words.
Yeah, and I've written like letter style poems.
Yeah, I'm thinking things must change because this was 10 years ago, and I'm imagining like the times are changing, and as things are becoming more open-minded, I would imagine like poetry rules are becoming like I was like, did it have to be a haiku? Did it have to rhyme properly? And I was like, where did
they should have told you like specifically if there was a style, but like I also noticed that like with certain poetry clubs and stuff like that, it depends on like spoken word in itself is sometimes looked at as a separate art than poetry. Even though technically it's poetry. Yeah. And so like sometimes like some poetry clubs will be like, oh, but this isn't written in like prose or blah blah.
That's what happened. Like they were just like, yeah, this is not a poem. And I was like, oh, and I never wrote a poem again because
I'm so sorry. That was wrong of them because there's definitely a poem, okay?
Because I think I actually still have it somewhere, but I wouldn't dare read it because it's like just embarrassing because it was like the first poem I ever wrote, but it was very like I don't know, like I said, like the words just came out of me because I was like 22 and I was like afraid to profess my love to this guy, so I just like wrote a poem like pretend and in the poem I was like confessing my love to him or whatever. But
that's really cute.
He ended up being a jerk though. Like we actually did end up sleeping together, and like he never like talked to me again. We ended up sleeping together, and then he like moved to New Zealand, and then he came back from New Zealand and was like, he didn't talk to me for a long time. And then he came back and it was like, hey, I'm sorry I never, I didn't keep in touch with you, but I realized I screwed up and I think like we would be a great couple. And I was like, oh my God, he wants to come back. I didn't answer him for like 1 week because I didn't see the message. And by the time I answered back to him, he had a girlfriend.
What?
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? So he ended up being a jerk, but I was 22 and he had this like suave hair. So at that age, you fall for stupid
that
things
is
like
one. If that's not a fuckball, I don't know what is. Okay. But yeah,
exactly. Drink to that. I really hope he doesn't end up watching this because he'll know exactly who I'm talking about when I said the New Zealand part. But I doubt he.
You're a fuckboy. Just so you know. But yeah, in case you're watching.
So I have some poetry questions for you.
Sure.
So my first is like, this is my first time actually meeting you in person, not online. What is your background? Like why, like how and why did you become a poet? Like how did this start and what inspired you? I'm just like, because I don't know much about you.
Oh no, it's
so
I'll tell you. It was a total accident. I didn't know I was writing poetry. When I was like 16, a ragey teenager, I just opened a journal one day and I started writing things down. And then all of a sudden those things that I was writing down had some kind of flow to them. So then I shared it with my teacher and she's like, you might actually write really good poetry. And I was like, okay. Then in class, we read Edgar Allan Poe, and my poetry at that time, which should tell you something, was very similar to his style.
Oh, damn,
yeah, I was a little dark. And he's still one of my favorite poets, which I'm still a little dark, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, and since then, I started just writing everything down, and then I like started editing it so that it would be in more of like a flow style.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I got into poetry. And it was like literally I never thought I would share it. I just thought it would be some way for me to like get released and everything. And then I started sharing it, and I've been very blessed that people have been very like receptive to it. And here we are.
I think that's amazing that teacher had reached out to you, because I was just thinking like, man, it's so important for teachers, or I'm in my 30s now, so when I see somebody, I'd really try to compliment people, because I think if you encourage people, I think that's what gives them the courage to move forward.
Yes,
so I think
yes.
it's like, imagine if that teacher didn't encourage you, like maybe it would have taken years for you to get into it. You know what I mean? So because I just remember like being into music when I was younger, and I wanted to be a music student in college. And I was like, I actually told the story on my channel. So if people who saw this video, you can fast forward, or saw this story, heard this story in the past, you can fast forward. But I remember like being really interested in being a music major, and I was like only 18 or 19. And I went into the program, and I was like, I asked the guy who ran the program, I was like, hey, like I want to be a music major. And he like had this like snobby attitude, and he was like, well, have you ever played any classical music before? And I was like, no, it would be like my first time. And he was like, well, then I don't think you're going to do very well. Like, so you know what I mean? So like fast forward, I ended up pursuing a Spanish degree because I was like 19, and I didn't have the confidence to, I ended up pursuing a Spanish degree. I finished it, and then I ended up going back for music. Damn, it would have been nice if like he wasn't a dick and he encouraged me to do what I wanted to do. So that's really nice that like you had encouraging people in your youth to inspire you.
And it's like I definitely feel lucky, because I hear stories like this all the time, and I'm like, a person is coming up to you who looks up to you and being vulnerable to you and saying, hey, do you think that you can help me achieve a certain goal? And you're like, oh, but no, you can't.
Yeah.
What kind of person are you, really? And like, I've heard this too. Like, there's a young poet who I met on a live. She was 15 years old, and I think she's like going to be an amazing poet. Like, she's gonna kick my butt for sure. Like, forget it. And then anybody else poets, you'll be like so much better. And she had her English teacher tell her she can't write.
Oh my God.
And she was like, I was like, she and I were on a call, and then my friend who's another poet came on there, and we were all like, fuck your teacher. You do what you want, because you know that this brings you joy. So you continue doing that, because joy is what makes people makes people powerful and makes people successful. And your teacher telling you you can't do that means she's telling you you can't be happy. And you know what? You have the right to be happy.
Yeah, I think also too, a lot of the times when people are very talented at something, a lot of the times the teachers aren't smart enough to realize it. Like, I think sometimes the people that are like, oh, you can't do this, it's because they might have a way of thinking or a talent that's actually beyond the teacher. And I think that happens sometimes. And I think like, especially like I was saying, for youth, like for people who are teenagers or maybe just newly adults, 18 or 19, like it takes a while to be able to develop the confidence to be like, no, fuck you, I'm going to pursue my dreams. So it's so important to encourage young people instead of put them down. Did you ever experience like people in your family like ever telling you like, oh, what are you doing? Get a real job, or like whatever?
It was really interesting, because like I grew up in a family where like, they always want you to be successful. They weren't like, they actually aren't one of those Indian families where they were like, I could either be a doctor or an engineer. They just wanted me to, they just wanted me to be in a job where I'm financially stable and I'm able to take care of myself. So I was lucky in that sense. So I was always kind of afraid to tell them that like, I also want to be a poet, or I also, at that point, actually, I used to be able to sing. So I'm not anymore. Aww. But, I was like, oh, maybe I want to pursue that. And I didn't know how they would receive it. So I just never said anything about it. So and then one day my music teacher was like, she's actually kind of good. And they were so supportive. And I just recently read them a poem for the first time ever.
And how did they respond?
They loved it. And they've been like, they've been like telling all their friends, and they're like, yeah, you need to like start doing more poetry. Anytime there's a live, they're like, oh, do you have a live today? Can we come watch? And they come watch. I'm like, okay, I wasn't expecting this reception. I don't know how to take it, but thanks.
I feel like the arts are becoming more accepted now. Like, I feel like, excuse me, I'm like,
no, you're okay. You're okay.
So loud that I'm rasping my voice up too.
Sorry. I'm also like excitedly talking. So.
I do the same thing all the time because I teach piano lessons and I teach singing lessons. And I'm like constantly yelling like while I'm talking. And I'm like, man, I need to tone it down because I always make my voice like raspy.
Oh, you're excited. It's good. You care.
I know. What was I saying though? Oh, like I feel like I was saying I'm gonna start talking quieter now because there's a microphone here. I don't need to scream. We're gonna be good. I was gonna say like, um, I feel like the arts are more accepted now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe years ago it wasn't. I did have like a friend who was Indian that she was like, "Oh, I always wanted to be a dancer." Like she was like, "I was really into dance," and my parents were like, "No, like go into technology." And like
Oh,
she ended up
man.
working in technology, but she was like, "Oh, but man, I wish." She's like, I wish I was you and like pursued my dreams like as a piano teacher." There is a downside sometimes to like I'm so happy I pursued my dreams, but it is a rough road. Like
Yep.
it's not easy. Like there's
Learning
a lot of
that.
like being
Mhm.
broke and stuff, like not having money
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But I'm so happy I did because like the way I look at it is that the real value to me in life is happiness. You know,
Mhm.
you spend a lot of time at your job, so you might as well do a job that makes you happy.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And like I tell people, I'm like, well, I mean, I have a real, not real, that's a wrong thing. I'm like, I have a 9 to 5 boring job is what I meant to say by real job as well. And I only do that because I have $100,000 in student loans that I need to get paid off. But like, there's so much, I think that after I went like public with my poetry, I feel like there's more purpose in my life than I had before.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like I'm just existing. I kind of feel like I'm actually living a life, which is nice.